Welcome back. The Miami Herald's coverage of Venezuela has been exceptional, and that effort has been led by Antonio Maria Delgado. Tony was the first to report last October about secret negotiations between the Trump administration and Delcy Rodriguez about her potentially leading the transition in a post-Maduro Venezuela. So in this moment, I wanted to talk to him about how Delcy is now walking a tightrope, balancing her new cordial relationship with Donald Trump with her long-standing ties to the Russians and Cubans, as well as dealing internally with the military and those that control Venezuela's secret police.
The big question here is, can she actually do that? And that's a big question, because she does not have direct control over the military. She does have political power, quite a bit of it. But in the end, this is going to be settled by the guy or the people that control the guns. And she's not it. She might be able to offer some kind of way out of this situation for the lion's share of the Chavistas, but you got key people that are wondering if they might be able to survive on this, namely Diosdado Cabello and Padrino Lopez. Cabello has been allegedly been running the drug cartel himself for many years, and he's probably the most powerful member of the cartel, and arguably today one of the most powerful members of the regime. So how she's going to deal with that, that's going to be very difficult. And what is she going to do, for example, if the U.S. demands that she hands over Cabello to face charges here? That would pose a serious problem. And the information we have been getting out of Venezuela is that Cabello have been working very quickly right now to shore up his control over the military and his control of the people all across the nation, all across the country, not just the capital, but all over the country, to try to put him in line to be able to hold that control in case he needs it against Delcy.
I told you that earlier today I spoke to the former interim president of Venezuela, Juan Guaido, and he described Delcy as the interim dictator. That was the phrase that he used, which I thought was somewhat interesting. They seemed fine with the notion, or he seemed fine with the notion, that this could take 6 months, a year and a half before elections may be held, and that there's any sort of restoration of democracy. I'm curious, when you talk to, I know that you work with a lot of correspondents, that the Herald has, El Nuevo has, within Venezuela, people who are doing some extraordinary, very brave work. What are you hearing on the ground? Because we're getting mixed signals. We're hearing that they are releasing some political prisoners as an overture to Washington, but at the same time, we're also hearing that they're making arrests of certain individuals on the streets who are protesting in terms of support of having Maduro been removed. So what is the situation on the ground in Venezuela?
It's kind of complicated. My sense is that I think Delcy is trying to comply with the U.S., and I suspect there's a great deal of leverage the U.S. has over Delcy to the point that we don't exactly know what it is. That it goes beyond the threat of, if you don't do what we say, you're going to be next. We suspect there's more than that. So we're seeing all this effort to go ahead and comply. That includes the liberation today of political prisoners. But the announcements made yesterday by the administration that the U.S. is going to be running the oil industry, that's quite a concession.
For years, potentially, for years to come.
And it is one that it'd be hard to imagine in a Venezuela just a few months ago, run by the Chavistas.
Can you imagine, though, I'm wondering again what you're hearing through your reporting as to how the people of Venezuela within the country are reacting, because there isn't a lot of talk about democracy. There is a lot of talk about oil, and the way Donald Trump summarily dismissed Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo Gonzalez. I'm wondering if you're sitting at home in Venezuela, somewhere in the suburbs of Caracas, trying to figure out what happens next. Is your life appreciably being better now today than it was a week ago?
The answer is no. I mean, the regime is still there, and there's a lot of fear. I think you got to start with the fact that the Chavistas have, basically no real popular support in the country. I think, if you honest, if you did a poll and you get people to answer honestly, you would get that maybe their support is around somewhere between 5 and 10%, not higher than that. Uh, the rest of the population wants them gone. Not only because uh, under Maduro the economy shrunk by somewhere between 75 to 80%, which is staggering. But also there was a lot of violence, and the situation led to 8 million people leaving the country. That's almost a quarter of the population. Uh, so I'm guessing a lot of people want to go out and celebrate, but they have this threat because they got the colectivos, the paramilitary groups outside, and there's for years, there's a risk of grabbing you in the streets and being taken to a prison and being tortured, which is quite common in Venezuela. So
And you think that threat still remains today?
yes, there's no change, not at this point. So to say that the country is free, that's very premature. I tend to agree with Juan Guaido about this taking time, because the key issues have not been resolved, namely the control of the military, which we know that, like I was saying earlier, that Delcy does not have. And the people that are opposed to this plan coming out of Washington, namely Gustavo Cabello and the defense minister and a whole lot of people, are the ones in control of the military. So, well, it's really going to be difficult to be able to get some kind of formula where you can free the nation and remove these controls of the people, and without removing some of these key players.
We'll be right back.